Holy shit, Brian's got multiple pages.
Oh yeah, he's ready to go. So, welcome back to Red River Podcast. Unbelievable. We were so excited. We are like, we're gonna do 4 episodes in October. We're gonna do
Yeah.
4 episodes in October. And when we did it, we're like, we didn't mean to, but we're like, well, we'll just take 6 weeks off now. We like to
Yeah.
we like to offset any progress that we make. You
We
know.
don't like people to get into a habit of knowing exactly when we're going to put something out. Make
Yeah.
it like an event, you
Yeah.
Yeah,
know?
I have to keep checking back on Spotify, and
Yeah.
it's it's been a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I told you before, Chris, um, if we had to do this on a regular basis, we probably would have stopped doing it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a beauty to just doing it whenever you want to do it.
Yeah, we over on Films on Tap before we shut it down, it was an absolute grind. And it really just affected the quality of the show. Like we would sit there some weeks and be like, we literally have nothing to talk about. So
Yeah.
we would just bullshit, which was fun, but nobody wants to listen to us idiots just bullshitting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you do it for a living, it's different, but it's like
Of
mixed in with
course.
everything else. So,
Yeah.
but
It's a
but
fucked up time of year,
but
too.
it's we're here and we're gonna talk all of our favorites of 2023. I didn't really think this year was as good as the last 2 years for movies, but as I was
Mhm.
making my list, I really had a hard time narrowing it down to 10. So I have a bunch of honorable mentions. I know me and Chris are going to go at it on one or two of those because we've already had the conversation. So yeah, today we're gonna talk favorite movies of the year. So Chris, as our guest, I don't know if you have any honorable mentions you want to get out of the way.
I didn't. Unlike you, I had the opposite. Like I
Okay.
was really struggling to fill out a list of 10 that I felt really good about. And I think part of that is just because of the fact that I probably saw fewer movies this year than I typically do. And so I didn't have a bunch to weed through. But I do have some blind spots that I wanted to list out in case, just sort of set the tone of things that I definitely didn't see this year that will not be on my list
Sure.
that I've seen on a bunch of critics' lists. One of them, obviously, is the big one, the Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. I did not get out the theater to see that. And quite frankly, I did not rent it either over the last few weeks. I mean, the prospect of sitting there for almost 4 hours was daunting. And despite being able to pause and come back to it, it's not something I've prioritized in my life yet. May December is another one on Netflix with Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman. Kind of an interesting take on the whole Mary Kay Letourneau situation, and it's supposedly very good. I just haven't seen that. Saltburn, which was the follow-up to Promising Young Woman with that director, I forget her name.
Oh, I didn't know
Poor,
that.
yeah, Poor Things, the new Yorgos Lanthimos. That dude, I'll watch anything that he makes, and I just
That's
haven't
not
seen
coming
it.
out till next month.
It didn't come out because we were gonna go
Yeah,
see it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of I guess a take on kind of the Frankenstein story, and supposedly
That's
Emma
going to be
Stone's
good.
amazing in it, and looking
Mm.
forward to that one. Another one that's not out yet, Maestro. Bradley Cooper's take on Leonard Bernstein. The Iron Claw with Zac Efron about the wrestling brothers.
That's
I
this week,
don't think that's out yet. I think it might be
this
coming out in
weekend.
limited. Okay. And then
Yeah.
finally, one that has been out and it looked fun as hell. I just didn't catch it was Dumb Money about the whole
Mm,
Mm.
GameStop thing.
you,
That looked
yeah.
really good. I saw like previews in the theater. I was like, oh, I'm in on that, and then I just never got a chance. So those are kind of some big ones that have been on certain critics lists that I definitely haven't seen, but we'll certainly over the next month or so try to get those in.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Frankenstein. There was a couple of movies that like kind of reimagined that thing. One that didn't make my list, but I thought was pretty decent was the Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, which was
Yeah,
it was like Frankenstein meets The Wire. So it was really interesting.
Mm.
Like it wasn't like amazing, but just like really weird take on it. So
that was a
uh,
Shutter release, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was cool. Like great cast. It was really just literally like a like a neighborhood where they sold drugs, like inner city, blah blah blah. It was just really like The Wire, and it had this like girl, and she brought back her brother who was killed by these drug dealers. So it's kind of like, an interesting take to like incorporate, like what somebody might be going through. So I thought it was good.
Sure. And then
Uh,
real quick, before there was two horror movies that I saw around Halloween, not good enough to make a top 10, but I enjoyed them. And I know they were sort of, I think, probably well regarded. Some people didn't like it, but Cobweb,
yeah.
with Anthony Starr from The Boys.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
I enjoyed
Lizzie
that one a
Kaplan,
lot.
right?
Yeah, and Lizzie Kaplan, she's great and everything. And I just really I was kind of creeped out from most of that movie. And even though it's a little predictable, you can kind of see where it's going. I thought it was effective for the season. And I liked Boogeyman, the Stephen King short story that they adapted. There was a little bit heavy on the CGI, but I liked the acting in it, and I liked the main character. And again, it got me a little bit on some of the, it's heavy on the jump scares or whatever, but I thought that one was pretty creepy too. But those were really like the only other two that I would mention beyond
Yeah.
my top 10.
It's funny that you mentioned those two because it was either or when I watched Boogeyman. So I was like, oh, I'm going to watch Cobweb. And, I still didn't get to watch Cobweb, but I really didn't like Boogeyman whatsoever. But
Yeah, Cobweb's the better movie probably.
it wasn't,
yeah,
yeah, it
Boogeyman.
wasn't bad. It was all right for me.
Yeah.
Langan, or as they call you on the show, Langdon.
It's funny that people.
or as you call him in the text to me earlier, Arlene hit up Ling or let me hit up Wang.
That's
even better.
that's
I love that.
that's my voice to text working overtime. So all right, Wang.
A couple of these, I'm pretty sure we're going to hear about later on, so I'm going to hold off on a couple of these. But I will give honorable mentions to John Wick 4. Another solid John Wick movie. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
when you think back in all the action franchises in history, John Wick's got to be one of the more solid fucking franchises in history.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a real good conclusion to it. That Corner Office with John Hamm, real weird, kind of quirky, in a being John Malkovich kind of way, kind of film.
Okay.
Hard to describe. It's if I describe it, it's about a guy working in an office, but there's kind of like there's an alternate reality to it. I'll put it. So if you like quirky, obscure movies and John Hamm, that's killer. Corner Office, Somewhere in Queens with Ray Romano. Thought it was a real solid drama, some dark humor to it, and Romano's done some. I never really watched Everybody Loves Raymond or whatever, but he's had some solid acting pop-ups, in the past. I don't know how many years.
Yeah, he's putting in some work, and he was just on Real Time, and he was talking about Somewhere in Queens, and I was like, oh shit, that's one of those movies that I still haven't gotten a chance to watch.
Yeah. Did you guys watch Made for Love on HBO? It was a
yeah. He was
great
the dad.
in that as the dad. Yeah.
That show was like, I didn't really care for the last season, but it was a really unique and weird show that I feel like a lot of people might have missed, but like when it hit on certain episodes, it was really good.
The first season was definitely better.
Yeah.
The conclusion, I don't know that I loved, but you definitely, it's, when shows or movies take the time to set up characters that you care about, and then they add in an element of like unique story or hook, that's when it really becomes something special. And that one, for a lot of it, is really, really good.
Yeah, it's really super interesting. All right, so Langan, you still doing the honorables?
Yeah, and I also had Infinity Pool on there.
You got two of my top 10 on them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
That's what I mean. Like and I know there's this that I have at least one or two of these I think Sam's gonna have on there, so I'll pop in later. So
Return of the Living Dead 3.
I think not what you saw this year. I think
Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, we just hung out at Rob Link's for Horror Hangs, and we watched The Blob. The double feature was The Blob, and they let me put on Return of the Living Dead 3.
They let me.
Nice.
They totally did.
I remember the first horror hang I ever went to at Parker's house. I think it was you that convinced or it might have been him, convinced everybody to watch Street Trash, and that was happened to be one I had never seen, and I was glad you did because it was wild.
Probably him, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly. I'm like
that was the
joking.
one we had the menu on for like 2-3 hours. I
That's
think.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really conducive to watching movies whatsoever, but
No.
you can watch certain parts for sure. Um, man, a lot of honorables. I couldn't really not mention these. I think Leave the World Behind was really good. Apparently it's called to some sort of conspiracy theory whistle there, but anyone talking about it on the internet's very funny. Shout out to them. And mental illness, I guess.
Right.
Beaten to Death was one that was really super unique. Just one of those stories. Felt like a Western with the cinematography, and it's one of those movies that tells a story in parts. It's not like linear. And by the end of the movie, it's just, you're like, oh yeah, wow, that's pretty cool, even if you didn't like the movie where it ended up. That was really cool. Appendage, everyone was talking about it on Hulu, and I was like, fucking Hulu horror movie. And they're like, basket case. So I was like, whatever. And then I started watching it, and I'm like, this is a pretty modern take on fucking Basket Case. One of the Frankenstein movies I was talking about was Birth Rebirth. I thought that was very good. Just strong performances. Judy Reyes from like Scrubs, like to see her in something like this is pretty cool. The movie Totally Killer, which was great.
Oh yeah.
Should have made my top 10, but it could have for sure. And I thought, where you take the flip side of that, which is like something like It's a Wonderful Knife, which is like one of the worst movies I've seen of the last 10 years. And then you get Totally Killer that like really delivered. It felt like a Christopher Landon movie, which it wasn't. Way back in January, Knock at the Cabin, I thought was really good. I'm a big doomsday movie guy, and I thought like, the peeling of that story worked very well. Another thing,
the fact that that it went there, that it wasn't just like delusional or whatever. I'm sorry to ruin it for anybody that hasn't seen it. I guess you could always edit that out, but the fact that it went the way it did was surprising to me, and I love that it did that versus just sort of some other type of cop out.
Yeah, it was like what is that? Fuck, the John Goodman thing. I can't remember now. Cloverfield.
Oh yeah, 10 Cloverfield
Where
Lane,
you're
yeah.
like, is this real? Is this not real? And then they
Yep.
deliver, and you're like, oh shit, how about that?
Yeah.
Influencer. That was another Shudder movie. That was super unique. Very
Great.
cool. Then a couple more. Fool's Gold with Charlie Day, directorial debut up on Hulu at the moment. Fucking unique movie. He doesn't
Really?
talk. He doesn't talk during the movie. It's like it's almost like a throwback to like like a 30s movie where it's just this whirlwind of this character and the life that he lives in Hollywood. Really, the plot. You haven't heard of it, Chris?
No.
Okay, so there's this.
So this is not the Matthew McConaughey movie Fool's Gold.
No. That's on my top 10.
Okay.
Charlie Day is like a homeless guy, and he resembles this guy who's a movie star, and the movie star is being like a real pain in the dick, and then trying to figure out how to like replace him or how to get him to do his job. And then like one of the producers just happens to see this homeless guy, and they're like, holy shit, this guy really looks like so and so in the movie. Then they bring him there, and they kind of like swap him out when like as a stunt double. And that's kind of how the movie goes, and it's very, very interesting.
Okay.
The last
That kind of sounds like Dave with Kevin Kline from years ago, where they use him as the president.
No, absolutely.
But I'm sure a lot different.
A lot of cameos in this, and it's just the vibe of it is like, some movies feel like you're watching a movie, like it's just movie magic. Like you watch it, and the story is just such a grand tale that it's great. The last two, Blackberry. I thought Blackberry was amazing. The story of the Blackberry with fucking
the guy from Always Sunny.
It's
right?
Always Sunny.
Yeah.
The Baruchel guy too. A few people. It just very well done. Very well done. And my last honorable mention, just missed it, Infinity Pool. When you think of the plot of what that was, and you're like, okay, so you're like tourists, and then basically the cloning. By the time you pull back at that plot, you're like, that is fucking weird.
Yeah. So
And
that's my
then,
number 10. So you want to just talk about that maybe
yeah,
in detail
yeah,
now?
yeah, for sure. I just want
Okay.
to say, it kind of loses me towards the end, but like the whole plot of it was just fucking super unique, and I can't wait to see what he does next. So yeah, let's talk.
Yeah. I mean, first, when I saw, I didn't love Antiviral, but when I saw Possessor, like
Oh yeah.
that blew me away. That I think that was
Yep.
my number 2 movie of the year that year. So I was super excited to see this. The trailer was exciting, and that reveal of the punishment or
Yeah.
per se, that was something that I was totally not expecting. And there's just such like a dangerous tone to that movie, like the way that and again, geez, Mia Goth is just ridiculous in everything she does. I mean, she's just
Yeah.
awesome actress, and like that whole sort of like just being very forward, and you just know something's going to happen there. I'm always interested in protagonists who like sort of go to the dark side, I guess, and he goes there, Alexander Skarsgård's character, and you sort of you feel betrayed, I guess, as a viewer. But then it leads you to the rest of the story, and it's just it's wild visually. It was super creative and unique, and it was dark. I have a lot of movies on the on my top 10 that are just fucking dark this year. I don't know, but I had I like thought about it for a week after.
Yeah, like I said, once you get that reveal of the punishment for the crime, and then they start doing it over and over again,
Yeah,
and they're like, hey, we got to put you to death, or you're like, wait, what?
yeah,
And then you're just like, what a fucking clever motherfucker. Like, just, like anything that starts like that is just always going to be super unique. Listen, in a planet full of just like really terrible plots and awful movies, something like that, even at its worst, or like even at where I felt like the movie kind of lost me like towards the end, where it's like whatever, like maybe the ride was just a little too wild for me towards the end. It's
mhm.
still better than most of the things that you see this year, because it was such a fucking bizarro movie that was so memorable. Like you said, when people bashed it online, some people did bash it, but I'm like, once you break down the plot and what it is, it's so worth watching, because it's a unique movie, and try doing that these days.
Yeah. And that
uh
perversity of just like and really the I guess the going up to the line piece, that everybody has that fear of death. But what power that would give you if you could see yourself die but actually still be alive.
yeah.
And I think that it's an interesting conceit that he poses in that movie, and I could see how it could be addictive, and when you couple that with
Totally.
when you couple it with the ability to do whatever the fuck you want, and like just let go of your basest instincts, and then that's is you get to also watch a clone of yourself get murdered. Like there's a lot of people that would probably go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, absolutely. I'll text 3 of them right now and they'll say yes. Langan, what's your number 10?
All right, my number 10. Well, at first, I forgot to mention another honorable mention. I had The Passenger. Uh, I thought was pretty damn cool.
Yeah,
And
I
Kyle Gallner is just like on fire as playing like this kind of crazy dirtbag like role that he's got going on.
that movie,
From
yeah,
Dinner in America. Go
yeah,
ahead.
that movie started off good, and then it
Mhm,
kind of like, lost me, so I didn't really add it. Yo, do you guys
mhm.
remember a movie that we talked about where like I was trying to remember, it was like on Netflix, and like there was a husband and wife, and they had the 2 kids, and they were murdered by these 2 guys that took the married couple on a car ride
Yeah,
afterwards.
speak no evil.
Oh yeah,
No, not Speak No
No?
Evil. No.
No?
I love Speak No Evil.
Okay.
You're thinking of something. Speak No Evil was like the vacation couple that
Yeah, yeah.
invited the other. Yeah, no, this was like in the very beginning. It
Oh,
was
wow.
two criminals. They fucking found this like couple with their two kids, like like they at a pit stop on a road trip, and
Oh, okay.
then they come over, and then they're kind of being weird and whatever. And before like you even know, like they just killed the two kids, and the couple's like, what the fuck? And
I
then they put them
remember
in the
that.
car, and it was just like one of the husbands was like a CO, and he was like abusing this one kid that happened to be all right. That's in the very beginning. We watched it.
Hmm.
I talked to it. So when I watched Beaten to Death, one of the reviews was like, "Hey, if you like this, check out Red, White, and Blue. Check out." They named like 5 movies,
Sure.
and one of them was that movie that I don't remember, and it just happened to be on Netflix. And I was like, "Wow, no one ever mentions Red, White, and Blue." So I watched it,
No.
and I was like, "Yo, this movie is crazy." I got to remember it. I
Damn,
forgot what.
okay.
Yeah. As soon as I get the name, I've been thinking about it for like 3 weeks. I don't remember the name, but Langan, let's
Yeah,
go.
my number 10. I had to put this in there. I knew this would be in my number 10 as soon as I knew that it existed and I saw it. But a 2.5 hour movie called The History of Metal and Horror. I mean, that's
Oh
a
yeah,
documentary
yeah,
just
Yeah.
made for like everything that I've ever loved in my entire life in a 2.5 hour movie. I
Yep.
was right there from the beginning. So that's just a fun time. It's the history of those two genres have always kind of, intertwined throughout history and stuff like that. The fan base, the content. So it was a good time. Good
that
watch.
yeah. That's you could rent that, and that's also up on Screambox as one of the streams. All right, here's a movie that I know Chris loved, Hypnotic.
Ah,
I
I didn't
fucking
actually hate it. I just it was just funny that Jerry loved it. Jerry hated it so much and you loved it so
yeah.
much.
Well, Jerry's like legitimately mentally ill.
I do. I
Yeah,
do. And
yeah. Oh,
I've
your
seen
wife knows him.
yes, and I've seen
Yeah,
many of his reactions to movies on Facebook, and
yeah,
most of them, I would say probably 98% of them are highly questionable,
yeah.
and no sane person would react in that way.
Yeah, he is. If he was here right now, like I wouldn't even ask him. You would just talk to him for 2 minutes, and you would be like, "Oh yeah, this guy's definitely mentally ill." So him not liking anything is funny to me because so he doesn't like plots. Anything with a plot kills him. So
Sure.
unless it's
Okay.
like he loves Under the Silver Lake because the movie's so fucking out of its mind that he's like, "Oh yeah, this is
It feeds
great."
that ADD
Yeah, yeah.
side of it. Yeah.
So, this was one of those movies that I forgot. I was like, oh, Robert Rodriguez and Ben Affleck, and I remember seeing the trailer and thinking to myself, like, yo, this. I was getting like First Power vibes from the trailer. I was like, yo, what the fuck is this shit? And no, I gave him the dry. Um, and so I rented it and I fucking loved it from the first like it's all right. So I'm trying to think of exactly how to explain it because it's one of those movies with a reveal and it's a great reveal. It's up on Peacock. And it's just I'm trying to think of what to compare it to. It's like a Total Recall meets
Kind of.
like
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
just like government agency hypnosis and all this other stuff, and it's just got such a great reveal and such a great twist that but also like the very beginning, like you're like, what's going on? Like everything seems so surreal, like you're watching, like a bank robbery and all these things going on, and you're wondering why. And it's just really, really good. I couldn't believe how good it was. I said it was the best movie of the year when I saw it. Obviously, 9 movies beat it out
Yeah.
after, but still, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's up on Peacock, and I recommend it. So
You definitely lean towards the hyperbolic when you see something that you really like.
but I
And
meant
no,
it.
no, and I know. I felt like it was kind of an amalgam of a bunch of different movies, like you mentioned, Total Recall and
100%.
Inception. Like,
Yep.
there's things in there that like I've seen before. And I kind of like I didn't call the twist, but I knew that something was coming. It was interesting. But yeah, it's definitely one of those ones that I think I think you can have like a really strong positive reaction to, or you can be Jerry and hate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. I recommend it. That's my number 10. So,
Yeah.
number 9, Chris.
My number nine is probably, as I'm trying to think back on everything that came out this year. Like, first of all, I'm getting completely oversaturated with Marvel, with Marvel TV shows, lesser Marvel movies that aren't nearly as good as the first like generation of Marvel movies that ended with Avengers Endgame. Like there were a few shows and movies after it that I was interested in, but they've completely fallen off a cliff as far as I'm concerned. But I really loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse a couple of years ago when that came out. I thought it was a really fresh take on the story. I thought the animation was phenomenal. I happened to see it in 3D, which was very cool. And it was pretty epic for an animated film. And so I was super excited to see Across the Spider-Verse come out this year. And I had a blast with it. Again, it was probably the best Marvel movie I've seen in a long time. Again, being an animated film. And and like as it's getting closer to the end of the movie, I'm like, fuck, how are they gonna wrap this up with like 10 minutes left? And of course it ended on a cliffhanger, so now I have to wait for the I guess the third movie in the trilogy. But it was funny, it was dramatic. You care about the characters. There's some really strong relationships in there, and the voice work that's done is just phenomenal. And so I'm excited to see how the trilogy finishes, but it was an absolutely worthy sequel. I kind of, did everything a sequel is supposed to do in terms of upping the action, upping the drama, but still kind of being true to the characters, and I just loved it.
Better than Spider Babe. All right, just making sure. Just I had to ask,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lang at number 9.
I actually had it in your honorables, Blackberry.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting anything from this film when I put it on, and was really impressed. I mean, it follows that I call it that Goodfellas formula of showing things at the beginning, the heyday, and then the fall off, the eventual demise. It's that arc that we see in these biopics, but with a fascinating story. I mean, these guys had world by the balls for a second, and then this little iPhone thing came out, and that was that. But it's told in a really good way, good performances. I was shocked. I was pleasantly surprised how good it was.
Yeah, I love my BlackBerry. So
Yeah,
watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. But then
it's
like,
the click. You like the click,
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
right?
did, yeah, I like to click.
That's probably one of the reasons that iPhone and Android phones added the haptic, reaction,
the noise.
because people loved it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Very cool movie. And like you said, the pacing was great. Like a Scorsese pacing. Like in the very beginning, like all these things are introduced, and you're just like, oh, this
Sure.
is interesting. And everyone kind of looks like semi ridiculous, because it's supposed to be in like the
Yeah.
80s or something. So,
Yeah. And it's a
um,
Canadian production.
um,
Always.
my
I had
number.
oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Just real, no, I was just going to tell a stupid story. We had an old CEO at one of my previous companies who, as times were changing, was very sort of resistant to new technology, would print all of his appointments, like all this stuff. And as everyone was converting to iPhone, he insisted on keeping BlackBerry. And so he had his assistant buy up like 10 different old school Blackberries so that in case his failed, he could continue to use it for as long as they supported the technology. And there really
Wow.
is there is a culture of people that are just think that it will always think that it was better than the iPhone.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you'll always find that one.
Yeah,
Betamax is so much better.
right.
I don't know why they got rid of it.
Laser discs.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
fucking laser disc. My number 9 is maybe on your list, Thanksgiving. You guys
Yep.
have it on the list?
I got it up higher. Yeah.
Sure, I
Okay,
got it
yeah.
up
So
higher as well.
so
We can talk about it whenever. What do
no,
you,
we'll talk about it when you guys have it up, when the last of you guys have it on, just so that all three of us could talk about it. So
okay.
Chris, number 8.
Number 8 was one that Brian mentioned in honorable mentions was John Wick 4. I loved the first two, and I had such fatigue and anger towards the third. There's this long section in the middle where he goes to the desert, he meets Halle Berry, there's these dogs, and then the last fight, he gets thrown through like 30 different glass panes in like the span of 5 minutes. And I'm just like, this is getting to a point where it's too repetitive, and I think I might be over it. But having loved the first two and hoping that the kind of the fourth one was a return to quality, or at least what I responded to. I went with my 11-year-old son, who is now into a bunch of action movies, and his buddy who had not seen any previous John Wick ones. But let's be honest, you don't really need to have seen any of them to enjoy them.
No.
And I loved it. It was long, but it never felt such. It didn't drag in any parts. It just kept sort of upping the ante. Like every act in that movie just gets more and more violent, crazy. The action just gets more insane. The final sort of battle on this giant stairwell in, I think it's France, right, Brian?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, it's just insane. And then they close out the story with a meaningful ending for the character. They didn't pull any punches. They didn't try to like drop any like hints or whatever. It just was a great finish to this story. And I walked out of there going, "Fuck, that was one of the better action movies I've seen in a really long time." So it definitely, it redeemed 3 for me. And that's just one I'll skip whenever I watch the series.
In
But I loved it.
in comparison, because I've never I saw the first one and I never watched the second, third, or fourth, but people love the fourth. So is it comparable to like like I just look at those movies, Equalizer, Kingsman, like they all seem kind of like the same thing. Is it all kind of like what's the difference between John Wick and the Equalizer?
I haven't seen The Equalizer, so I
Yeah,
can't comment on that. But
yeah. I mean, I saw the first Equalizer, but I haven't kept up with the series. I think part
I
of it
meant the one
just
with the old white guy.
not the Denzel one.
I'm just kidding. No,
Uh,
no.
I mean, I think part of it has to do with Keanu's appeal, right? I mean, who else does the action hero who barely talks better than him? I mean, obviously there are some really greats out there, but in the current time, in modern times, the first one anyway was phenomenal. I think the fact that the first John Wick movie is a great revenge tale, and the second one just incredibly ups the ante and then opens up this world of assassins who all sort of, have kind of a code of honor, but at any point kill each other. And you see sort of how broad the reach is of, like kind of this network of assassins and their
that's what it
access
is, I
to,
think.
yeah,
That subculture of assassins, and there's all these colorful different, members of that society and stuff as it
yeah.
fleshes out that whole world. It's part of the appeal, I think.
I
Yeah,
like
and
it.
Ian
Huh.
McShane is great.
Oh yeah.
As was the guy who kind of was his partner at the Continental Hotel. He died this year, unfortunately. I
Yeah,
forget the actor's name.
Lance Reddick, is that his name?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was great. He brought a little bit of humanity to that story. He really cared for the dog, for John. It's
Yeah.
a good series, Sam.
Good. I gotta check it. I like I said, I only saw the first, and there was no rhyme or reason. I just didn't go watch the other one. So,
Sure.
Lang number 8.
This one really surprised me, but Dungeons and Dragons. I did not expect much from this film. I mean, you might not realize it by looking at a cool motherfucker like me, but I was into like nerdy Dungeons and Dragons shit. No, it's hard to believe, but it's they've made movies in that genre before, and they were all horrible pieces of
Yeah,
shit. There was
Jason
one in the
Statham was in
80s.
one
What's
that was
that?
terrible. Jason Statham was in one that was just god
Yeah, I
awful.
think one of the Wayans brothers, I think, was in one at
Yeah,
one point.
that's
Like,
the one with Jason Statham.
it's terrible, but everything was there to make a fucking, a solid movie. And this, it was super fun. I couldn't believe how good it was. The action was good. The dialogue was fun. It's a great like something popcorn kind of movie, and I think it really uh it has a solid script, and I think it's a birth. It's going to be the birth of another solid, I think, franchise. I hope because it was a solid, fun popcorn movie.
It got fantastic reviews. I think it did, reasonably well at the box office too. So,
It did,
hopefully,
yeah.
yeah. And Chris Pine he's a charismatic motherfucker, like he's been great as Kirk in the newer Star Trek movies.
Hmm.
He was in that awesome movie with oh, fuck, where Jeff Bridges was the cop that was after him.
Oh, that's
And
a good
they
one.
robbed a
Yeah,
bank
that's
together with his
Hella High
brother.
Water.
Hell or High Water. Yeah,
That movie's awesome.
it is awesome. So him being kind of the lead was I think a good move for
I think
the
even if
first
you're not
film.
into like uh that swords and sorcery shit, I think you'd still enjoy it. I think it's a solid film.
There's no
Yeah.
fucking way I would enjoy that movie, but I'm glad you have it at number 8.
Listen, it's no Hypnotic, all right, but it's all right.
Watch the movie and then come back to me. So my number 8 is a movie that my girlfriend put on, and I had no interest in watching it. And lo and behold, I thought it was really, really good. Currently at 93% for Rotten Tomatoes, which I don't know what that means, but that sounds good, right?
It's
Sounds
Um,
positive.
good.
so it's called Flora and Son. And I'm a sucker for anything with guitar and songwriting. It's very much a songwriting movie. But so the guy John Carney was director, and I think he did stuff like Once and Song Street. Like he seems to
Okay.
do like a lot of like music centric movies. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in it, and so it's just kind of like this girl. But it's so funny. So I think they like she has this kid, and they live in Dublin, and the accents are very thick. First of all, and it's just so vulgar
Like
in the beginning.
Train Spotting
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's like very vulgar in the beginning. She's kind of like, whorish, and like her son hates her, her ex hates her, and she's just kind of like going through life. And she's just trying to like connect with her son, who's like really into like electronic music, whatever. So she decides she's gonna change her life and start playing an acoustic guitar, and she starts taking lessons from some guy in California. I forget what part, and that's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Then they have their funny interactions, and it just goes from there. Then she's just trying to have this relationship with her son, who's kind of like a dick, and he's lovable but a dick, and it's just a movie that never really felt like it was dragging at any point. Every character was great. It's not, if you thought it was going to go left, it goes right. It reminded me of a Hearts Beat Loud.
Yeah.
Hearts Beat, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Hearts Beat Loud. I think that's the one.
Yeah, it's fucking great. It's on Apple TV. I don't know if you could rent it yet, but it's really good. I couldn't believe it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So,
one I definitely got to check out.
number 7, Chris.
All right. My number 10, hopefully I don't catch shit from you guys or the listeners of the Red River podcast. But this was one that I probably had no interest in seeing and probably wouldn't have gone to see, except that it got insanely good reviews. It was like a pop culture phenomenon this summer, and
Oh,
my
I
family
know,
wanted
I
to go
know where
see
you're
it.
going. I know where you're
Yeah.
going. Is it that
So
the kid movie, like the guy?
no, it's Barbie.
Oh, I thought it was like, what is that fucking child trafficking movie that came out?
Oh God, no! That fucking
I
Sound of
thought,
Freedom.
yeah,
movie?
yeah. I thought that's where you were going with it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
No,
Tara made him go see
the
the Sound of
same
Freedom.
people who love that are the same people that think that Leave the World Behind is some sort of conspiracy.
That
No, I'm good.
that is true. That is true.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Barbie. Go ahead.
Yeah, Barbie. First of all, Margot Robbie, treasure, right? She's amazing. She's the perfect choice to play like kind of the original Barbie. But I really love what they did in terms of having like the different types of Barbies, the look and feel of kind of Barbie Land. the way they connected it to the outside world. Um, and the heart of the movie really is America Ferrera's character, who's kind of the mom who's trying to connect with her daughter. She has this amazing sort of speech in the middle of the movie. It's a little on the nose in terms of, men are bad, women are great, in certain parts. But I think that like the ultimate sort of the way it gets to the end, um, it's more just about listening, respecting, understanding, but it was also funny, really sort of well photographed, and the characters were great. I had an absolute blast sitting there watching the movie and like looking over at my wife and my daughter and seeing them laugh and cry and getting emotional myself at certain points in the film. So it probably deserved to make over $1 billion this year. And it's one of the better sort of blockbuster movies that are out there. And it's not like just a kids movie or a girls movie. It's kind of an everybody movie. So
Yeah,
I loved it.
I didn't really think it was much of a kids movie either.
Yeah.
It was everything. I liked how it started. I thought like the universe was cool. It was there was a lot of cool stuff to it. Kind of where it ended up, like I was kind of like I tapped out of it for sure, but it wasn't like I didn't hate it. I just didn't I thought it was like cool, just maybe whatever. But like the universe was cool. The Kens and then
Sure.
Michael Cera playing the brother.
He's great.
There was a lot of cool parts to it. But yeah, man, good for whoever enjoyed it. Sure. Langan, did you like it?
I didn't see it. I
Oh, you
didn't
didn't
see
see it.
it.
Oh, it's on
Nah.
HBO now.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I,
mean,
I, I'm,
yeah.
It's
I
I'm
tried to
telling you,
catch
Brian,
up on. I'm done for this year trying to catch up on movies. I was trying to
yeah.
watch so many, so the fact
If
that I
you
missed
did
it, I'm
force
like, all right,
yourself, I think you wouldn't you'd probably be like, all right, this is better than I probably imagined.
Yeah.
right, right. I
Yeah.
got you.
Um,
Um,
yeah, what are we up, 7?
7, I think.
Yep.
Asteroid City. I got. Now, I don't. I'm a big Wes Anderson fanboy. I love Wes Anderson films, all of them. I was happy to see this in the theaters. Is this the best Wes Anderson movie? Probably not, but it's still good enough to rate in my top 10 for the year. Um, it requires a certain patience. It's got a great thematic film about grief and loss and the color palette is just fucking gorgeous. I mean, his kind of movies, I mean, not every little T has to get crossed and every I has to get dotted for me to make some perfect, like I understand exactly. It's just a vibe, this whole picture. And
Sure.
I did wish that Bill Murray was Tom Hanks's character because I just like Bill Murray in that universe, but I guess there was some shenanigans with Bill Murray why he wasn't in the movie or something. Is he getting a little trouble this year or some shit or
Oh,
had to lay
yeah.
low, I think, or
Yeah, I think
something. But that
he
would have
made
been
some
him.
I
comments or
Yeah,
grabbed an ass or something.
I blame
something like that.
I blame Chet Hanks.
That but yeah, it's great. Listen, if you're down with the Wes Anderson
Yeah.
universe, you either are or you're not, pretty
I
much.
I
So
tried. I put it on
yeah,
for like a half hour and it was just like not what I was expecting. I thought I was going to love
yeah.
it and it's just
Hmm.
this like really like those 30 minutes I felt like I was like reading a book. I was just,
Uh-oh.
I was
Which we know you
Uh-oh.
hate.
books are kryptonite to me.
You started sweating and shit watching it.
It was just like it was just a lot to take in. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it didn't really click with me. And then like on the plane ride, a couple of things. There was a few movies that I passed on the plane ride, which I should have started. Asteroid City, I should have just finished it on the plane. And I never saw the new Indiana Jones movie, which is weird.
Oh yeah, I
That's
forgot
not
that
that's
existed.
not really a plane type movie. Like if you're gonna watch it, and it's not the worst. I mean, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is the worst of the
For sure.
four.
All right, good.
Um, but it's got some real, I think solid redeeming elements. I had a good time watching in the theater, but like a big screen with a decent sound is probably the best way to watch a movie like that, not on a tiny
I put it on for 15
airplane
minutes
screen.
and like turbulence hit, and I was just like, oh man, I'm like, I can't even
Sure.
concentrate on this right now. So, but all right, yeah,
Yeah.
cool. So
I'm sort of on the opposite. Like, so I think the last Wes Anderson movie I liked was The Fantastic Mr. Fox. Like, I don't know, just like I loved
You know, like Grand
Rushmore, I
Budapest.
loved Rocket, I loved I love the Royal Tenenbaums, but then he just sort of got a little too like precious for me. It felt like it was all very sort of quirky and very much his style, which I guess I can't fault him for. It just for whatever reason it doesn't speak to me as he's gone on in his career. So I
yeah,
didn't even give Asteroid City a chance, but I gotta check it out just to make
He
sure.
very much is like, he's like the AC/DC of filmmakers, you're like there's no surprise in like what's
Sure.
coming down the pike. I mean, obviously variations and different stories and stuff, but as far as the thematic feel and stuff like that,
I'm
you know
with
what
you
you're
though.
getting.
I'm with you with like the more his work went on, like I just find myself less and less like interested from like out of the gate, like the first three or four
I
things.
thought the French Dispatch was fucking great and the Grand Budapest Hotel, but I
That one
still
was
love,
probably
listen,
better
Royal
the more you
Tenenbaums is my favorite movie he'll ever
I
make. I
love it.
don't even see that
Yeah.
ever topping for me, but that's how I get what you're saying though.
Needle in the hay. Now here's a movie that probably no one has on their list, but I thought it was great. Ever since Radio Silence took the Scream franchise over, I thought they knocked it out of the park with Scream 5 and Scream 6. Scream 6, I fucking loved. I love that Samara Weaving intro.
Oh my God, it was an awesome
Fucking
opening
great,
kill.
right?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Because when Ghostface takes his mask off, you're like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I wonder what's going
And
on
that's an
now.
early reveal also.
Like, yeah, like right away.
Yeah.
The New York City backdrop was cool. And so what I love about Radio Silence taking over the last two is that I felt like they made the killing brutal again.
Oh
The
yeah.
one thing that I will say about this movie though, no one dies. Like
None of
everyone,
the main characters that you
yeah,
care about die.
everyone,
Yeah.
but they got stabbed a shitload of times. It didn't
Oh yeah.
even matter. Like one
Yeah.
dude got stabbed like 100 times, and he's still
Yeah.
in the ending, like, hey. And I
Yeah.
was just like,
Also, they fucking telegraphed the shit out of the killers. Like it was obvious who that was gonna be. Once they said that like the brother wasn't around or whatever, you're like, oh okay. Like it's like somehow it's the cop, and like I found it pretty easy early on to kind of figure out.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's the beauty about not being bright like me. I was towards the end. I was like, son of a bitch, didn't see it coming again. But it's just great. I really really liked it a lot. And I'm fine with them not coming back. So I didn't really know what else you could do with it. But I mean, listen, they still keep adding it on, and I keep watching it.
Yeah.
And the last two were just great. And it's just aside from none of the main characters really suffering any type of deadly fate. I just 5 and 6 just home runs again because I felt like the brutality was there. Even like Ghostface in like a bodega, like that's
Yeah,
fucking
right.
bananas. I thought that was great.
Yeah, dude. So I had again. This was another one I took my 11-year-old son to, and I was worried because in the opening scene that Samara Weaving kill is fucking brutal. I mean, they
Yeah.
stab the shit out of her. Fuck.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to raise a serial killer. But
Yeah.
thankfully, him and his friend who also saw John Wick, I think they recognize the cartoonishness of the violence, or at least the over the topness of it.
Yeah.
But the scene where they're trying to get to the other building and the chick falls and dents her head on the garbage dumpster, I was like, oh my God, that's an iconic sort of kill and like a great effect. And so that I agree. The movie was a blast. I love the brutality that Radio Silence brought to it. And like you, I don't mind losing Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera because now they pay Nev Campbell a buttload of money to bring it back to her and craft a story around her, which
Yeah.
they're going to do.
Absolutely. It's funny you're talking about like, I think of like the absolute depraved shit that I saw, going to mom and pop shops at like 8 or 9.
I saw Faces of Death when I was his age, so
Yeah. So
I guess I'm not too worried about it.
a little known fact that a friend of mine told me that's friends with Rennie Harlan. He's remaking Faces of Death. That's
Wow.
yeah.
Also made a Strangers trilogy.
Yeah.
And like he directed Die Hard 2 and Cutthroat Island. So
Yeah.
I love Die Hard 2, but it is fucking cheesy and I can't imagine him making
let's not forget the one movie he directed that we all love. Ford Fairlane.
Ford Fairlane.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, come on. Hickory Dickory Duck.
Yep. My buddy rented that and I ended up stealing the tape and then
Yeah.
he got charged like $100 for it and I told him, I don't know, I
Nice.
returned it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good one. So I don't really know. So my brother, my niece is I don't even know how old she is. Like if I'm guessing maybe she's like between 8 and 10. I never remember. And he was like telling me like she watched Terrifier 2. And I was like, I don't have kids. I don't care what you do with your kid. But I'm thinking like, I don't know, that movie seems a little out there. And
yeah.
He was like, I don't know. She has YouTube, and she kept saying that she wanted to watch it and and I'm just thinking like, but you're like the parent.
Honestly,
like,
though, as brutal as like that, the one obviously kill is. I actually think the smushing the mashed potatoes and the shotgun blast at mom's face is somehow more depraved than the kill before that. But
it's up there.
I watch a lot of shit with my son, like a lot of horror movies from a while, but I won't. I'm not really into any rush to watch Terrifier with him. Absolutely
that first
none.
one,
It can wait.
Sawing the girl in half from the vag down to me is probably more depraved for a kid to see than some of the other stuff in Terrifier 2. But either way, it's not a good idea.
I think you're right. I think 2 is actually probably a little bit more acceptable because the first one I just rewatched it and it's still so good.
Yeah.
If it still gets a rise out of me sometimes, he doesn't need to see it yet.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, oh boy, even now, and I've seen it like a billion times.
Yeah.
Once he shows her gutter balls at like 10, then I might.
Serbian film is next up on
the
list. So that's my number 7. So Chris, number 6.
My number 6, and I'm not sure if you guys have it higher. And I think Brian might have mentioned it, or I don't know who mentioned it. Honorable is Thanksgiving.
Oh, I have it at number 9. So
we could. I have it. I have it at 3, but we could just discuss it now.
No, let's just wait till you bring it up.
We can wait till 3. Yeah. We'll wait till 3.
Wait till 3. So
that's my 6.
Langan.
My number 6 is When Evil Lurks.
Ooh, that's my number 3.
Okay, that's
okay.
That's
is it higher on your list, Sam?
Yeah, it is.
All right, well, hang on to that one.
I got Saw X.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm the only one. So,
Oh, by the way, my phone is definitely listening to me because I got an alert saying Prime Video has Asteroid City up for you to watch.
Oh, that's great.
Boy.
They're like, we recognize Langan's voice.
Red River drives the market, baby. You know what I mean? We're locked in with that Alexa.
I love Saw. I don't care. Like rewatching all of them, they're just great. They're just somehow they manage to fucking wrap up a movie, and they're like, okay, cool, we wrap. Now we have another X amount of months to think of something else, and they always do it. Saw X was better than Jigsaw and Spiral.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys watch it?
I did. And I was surprised by sort of how like well written it was because you don't typically expect that from a Saw movie.
Yeah, I thought like the fucking like the auditioning sawing off of the thigh. Like once that started, I was like, here we go. And it's a Saw movie, but somehow they kind of like make Jigsaw like it's almost like he's transitioning into like the hero and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
like he had some humanity in this one.
Yeah.
When you think of what that franchise did with a dead character, it's like amazing.
He died in like 3, and they were like,
Yeah.
somehow we're gonna keep like no
We got to
worries.
keep this guy going. Well, I think in the beginning they had no idea, it was gonna they
Yeah.
were gonna be making this many, but
Well, listen, if you like Saw and all the movies, it's very good, and you haven't seen it yet. It doesn't disappoint. It's
Yeah.
absolutely a Saw movie, and it's got the brutality. It's got a great ending, and they already signed on to do 11. Because at this point,
yeah,
if if you're doing something and you're getting millions in return,
It
it's
still
like,
made a buttload of money and then also did really well on demand with rentals and stuff. So
yeah,
this is the
um
most as far as horror franchises go, I guess overall the most consistent like linear one ever made, right? Because like you get to this many numbers, you're talking about like Amityville and Hellraiser territory, which is a complete shit show
yeah.
yeah. It's
of
it's
whatever.
it really is when you think of like quality, even if you think that they're constantly a 7 across the board, it's
Mhm.
still better than once you get to Jason X or like Halloween
Right.
Resurrection,
Yeah.
like
The
where
highs of some of those are probably at least for me are better than the highs of Saw,
oh
but the consistency like you said. And
yeah,
what's interesting is it's still the same fucking simple ass thing. It's devices, it's the traps, it's the moral conundrums like what did these people do that he has them now in his web and trying to get out. And then which ones either live or die, but like it's the same thing every time. But like I was getting a little burnt out on it, but this one actually kind of reinvigorated me because like they went back and I think told a better story and tried to
better.
bring a little bit of humanity back into it. Now unfortunately I think the 11 writer is not this
Jo-
guy that did
yeah,
10, so
Josh Stolberg.
yeah.
Yeah, he was good. He did like
Let's
the
see.
last couple. So
We'll obviously we'll be there to watch it. So
we're cracking the top 5. So number 5.
is that me?
Yep.
All right. So my number 5 is a long-standing franchise that I just think consistently kicks ass. Consistently just is made with quality. I never am bored. In fact, I'm frequently blown away, especially when I see these movies in the theater. And it just continues to prove that Tom Cruise is the biggest movie star on the planet, and that's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Um, the the second movie that John Woo did is not good. I'll be honest, but 1, 3, and now all the way through 7 have been fucking fantastic. This movie, you don't take a breath the entire movie. The action is through the roof. The incorporation of technology, the characters who have now spent all of this time together, Simon Pegg and Ving Rhames and Tom Cruise and the women that have been introduced in the series through part 4 through now. Um, it's just like I'm in, and I will continue to be in until they disappoint me. And so far, they have not. And it's a really great idea in this one because it's really all about AI and how if something were to happen and someone were able to infiltrate the global network, that basically, the risk to the world is something that could probably take the whole thing down. And
What
so
what uh
have
what ex-president produced this movie?
no. Well, now apparently Joe Biden watched this movie and then set in motion to review the threats of AI to kind of global national security,
Yeah.
which is funny, but
No
it,
way.
it's it,
Really?
it's a yeah he did it's but it's a fucking blast. It's
Oh, what a
action
world.
packed, um, and it's just insanely well made. These movies kick ass. Unfortunately, it didn't do as well box office wise as the previous ones have done, which is bothersome to me because it still just continues to be the same elevated quality. So I don't know, maybe it's the length. It was like 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it was
I think
fucking amazing.
box offices are still weird now. I think they're finally coming back a little bit.
Hmm.
You know, it's just like
Yeah.
because everyone's like, oh, I'll just wait to spend $20 and watch it at home or
Yeah.
whatever. And then you forget about it, like I did with Indiana Jones. I was like, oh yeah, that movie was made and came out. AI, speaking of AI, very funny. So yesterday I was like uploading some lyrics, the new record to Spotify, and you have to type out the lyrics and all this other shit. It has to be the way they want it. This new feature they have is, hey, do you want AI to guess the lyrics? I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I fucking hit it, and they
Was it
fucking,
close?
yes. Most of it, I just had to like retype a couple of things,
Okay.
and it's such a time like saver. Like you're uploading like all these songs, and it's like, I hate typing shit up. And AI guesses like 99% of it, and you just, maybe like a word here or there. So take
So
that.
at work we have two new positions that we're opening up, and
Doggy.
and
I'm
my
11.
the the guy that's going to be hiring for the positions, he typed in AI at GPT he typed in the name of the position, and it literally wrote a job description that was insanely close to what we would have written had we done it originally. So we were able to like use that as the skeleton and then build off of it, but it was super, as you mentioned, time saving,
Yeah.
and basically 5 years from now it's Skynet and we're all dead.
Well, I was thinking
Yeah,
the
there's less and
lawnmower
less
man.
use for human beings. Just,
Right.
why bother? We had a good run though. It's been
Yeah.
cool, right?
We did.
Yeah, we're on
Sure.
we're
Were
on
some mistakes made along the way? Sure.
Sure.
But
we're on the last half, so it's whatever,
yeah.
So number 5, Langan.
This one I had no expectations going into the holdovers.
Yeah.
Another
I
one I want to
was
watch. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I have that at 4, so we can
pleasantly
chat about it now.
surprised.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, then
Yep.
let's hold off. Yep.
No, it's literally the next movie, so we might as
Yeah,
well
it's
just
this
talk
next
about
one.
it.
Okay. All right. It's basically, it's a dialogue based drama. Some funny stuff in it. Got a real 70s look and feel to it. I mean, just even the film stock, it looks like a 70s movie, but just a sweet story, a great Christmas story. Not an unheard of concept, the cantankerous old professor and the punk kid. Yes, we've kind of seen some of that stuff, but listen, is Paul Giamatti ever bad in anything? Because I've yet to see it. Like that guy is always going to bring his A game, and he's fantastic in this movie. It's a great movie and a great Christmas movie. Definitely worth watching this time of year.
Totally agree. It's an Alexander Payne film, which, again, kind of like Wes Anderson, some of his later stuff I've not necessarily loved. I felt like this was a return to form for him. Movies like Election, and just where he's very interested in action. And I think this does incredibly well at sort of setting the relationships early on and the characters. Brian, as you mentioned, it's got that crackling film stock. It's got, even the titles are very sort of
Yeah,
1970-ish.
the poster too.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah.
looks like something.
It
Yeah,
gets you very sort of in the mood. Um,
For Bush.
but yeah, but no, it's one of those ones where you really do love the characters,
yeah,
and a little bit Scent of a Womany in the way that he sort of sticks up for him, and kind of takes the rap a little bit. But I just, when you watch Giamatti, when you watch The Kid, who was great, by the way, I've
yeah.
never seen
Yes,
him in anything before. I think it
me
might have been
neither.
like his first movie. And some of the ancillary characters, it's just one of those things that, if you're not smiling most of the movie, you're feeling a certain way. It kind of pulls at the heart a little bit. It's just a great sort of character drama. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was glad I watched it. And it is very much of the season,
Mhm.
takes place over the course of Christmas and New Year's at a boarding school with some kids that for whatever reason, either they don't have families or their parents have been dickheads and decided to go to Fiji and not pick their kids up for the holidays.
Mhm.
They're stuck with this professor who,
Yeah,
I think, when they explore him and his background, you start to get a little bit more about who he is and why he is.
yeah.
It really fleshes Giamatti's character out, and you fall in love with him.
they slowly peel that orange, that character. Like
Yeah.
you really don't know much, but by the end, it's just they give you little pieces and stuff. It's great.
I
Yep.
don't know much, but I know I love you.
And that may be all I need to know.
So my number 5 is Renfield. Anyone have that on there?
It would have been one of my honorables, but I figured you'd have it in there. So I
Yeah.
didn't.
It's one of those movies that, came out in theaters. I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch it, and it got fucking slammed. I'm like, okay, well, I guess maybe I'll just like
Did
skip
it
it.
really? I didn't
Yeah.
see
Did.
the reviews on that bad boy.
Yeah.
It did catch some shit, and I remember seeing it and being like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
Great.
and then like when it hit, maybe it was like Peacock or something. Like within the
Yeah.
first 5 minutes, any movie that references like a subgenre of music like ska or whatever, like I'm just like the shit that they were talking about in the very first 5 minutes. I was like, oh, whoever wrote this is like, I know this person, and then it's just this really fucking.
Wait, real
it's
quick,
like,
Sam. Did you watch The Killer on Netflix, the David Fincher movie with Michael Fassbender?
I never did. No, I
So,
wanted to.
so when he kills someone or when he's getting set up for someone, he listens to the Smiths and Morrissey.
Okay.
So it's just funny that like
Oh,
you talked
yeah.
about kind of like being very specific in the music.
Did you like it?
I did. It's very much like a sort of a slice of life. Like it's you follow this one little piece of time with him. It doesn't have sort of this big climactic ending, but I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I got to check it out. It's just one of those things that past lives. There's a few things
Sure.
this year that I haven't checked out, but Renfield it felt like a John Wick movie with horror and splatter and all this other shit.
Mhm.
And I just watched it, and we were like, me and Karen were just like, this is fucking great. Like, what is this? Is like just an action movie with fucking like blood and guts and all this other shit, and
Sure.
fucking Nicolas Cage, and fucking absolutely goddamn loved it. So
and seeing like Nicolas Cage like last year with the
unbearable
weight of
Mhm.
whatever the fuck,
killer.
like that was so much fun and ridiculous and
That was-
action packed, and
that was in my top 5.
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
mine too. Like he just had
Yeah.
he's had this like renaissance where he's acknowledged that he is kind of a caricature of a human and an actor, and he's just embracing it and having a blast, and we're getting the benefit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did your number 4, and your number 3 was what exactly, Chris?
My 3 is When Evil Lurks.
Okay, so then you have that at what, 3, Langan? Oh no, you had it further.
No, I had it at 6. I think I was
All right.
holding off on speaking it.
Me too. I got it further up. So let's do your next
Okay.
one. Let's do
Mine or
yours.
Yeah, because we're on 3 now. Sam's is higher, so you go for your 3.
No, he's doing his 4.
Oh,
my 4. Wow, confusing.
I got
oh, my
always
bad.
afraid.
Yeah, my bad. I had a holdovers at 4. Sorry.
So this is my 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
your 4.
I got Beau is Afraid, the Ari Aster movie. It's probably, I like Midsommar better of his pictures, but I did like this a lot. I welcome the challenge because it is a challenging film, and I had to watch it a couple of times. But it's just a surrealistic dive into anxiety, panic, this kind of panic, like accumulation of failures one can have in a life, and where it leads you to certain points. And as someone who's had like a panic, I never had like anxiety attacks at younger and stuff like that, but as I got older, it was something that affected me. And this movie just kind of struck a nerve, you know what I mean? And I love Phoenix's portrayal of the main character, Parker Posey. I'm a sucker for. But it's a film I can watch a couple of times and get something different out of every time. But I also do understand why some people were not feeling it at all.
Yeah, so I avoided it just for that, because I knew like maybe eventually like I'll watch it, but I just, it was one of those things, when you, so much shit to watch, and when something doesn't seem as appealing as like the first 5 movies you're thinking of, maybe number 6, it's like, all right,
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
right.
Oh yeah. That's
It's,
another
Same
one.
thing.
That's,
Yeah. It's like, do I
um,
want to sit? Do I want to invest into this right now? This 4 hours?
right. Because
here,
Beau is Afraid is long, right? It's almost 3 hours.
It's 3.5, I think it was. Was
Jesus.
it? It's
So
definitely in the three plus. I don't remember exactly how long it was,
so
but yeah.
my 25-year-old son is very much as I am a film fan. I loved Hereditary. I love Midsummer. So he went to it. He took his grandmother with him. She came back and she went, "What the fuck was that? I can't believe he took me to see
Yeah.
this movie."
It's like a
Unbelievable. So I was
three and
like,
a half hour movie about anxiety.
yeah. And I heard
yeah,
there's like Oedipal, like fucking mom issue,
There is a
sexual
lot of
weird things going
heavy,
on in
weird
it. So,
subtext in
when I
that
when I when
movie.
I was
Yeah.
when I was younger, like my one of my uncles would always laugh. Like he didn't like Schwarzenegger movies, but
what?
that's what I wanted to watch. So I remember like we went to go see Raw Deal, and he's
Oh,
just like, this guy takes me to movies where there's like 20 dead bodies before the credits even roll in the beginning,
what
and
does the P stand for?
I don't remember.
Pussy.
Oh yeah.
Joseph P. Brenner.
Yo, fucking Raw Deal is so bad. Raw Deal is so bad, but it's filled with so many great characters. I
When
fucking
Uh,
she
love it.
when she fucks up the cake and he's like, "You should not drink and bake."
Yeah,
I,
it's
I
so
just
good.
lost. That movie's amazing. Sorry.
All right. So my number 4 is something that I took from a TV show, but it's an 80-minute feature, and I think it's fucking brilliant. It's a fucking movie to me. The Beyond the Sea segment of
Yeah.
Black Mirror
Yeah.
is fucking so good. Did you watch it, Langan?
yeah.
Man, okay, so you're creating a story that is so like, when you think of the like this person that you work with or your friend, and then like he loses his fucking family, and you're trying to be nice to him and doing this favor for him. If you haven't seen it, you should just watch it. But
Oh, it's
I'm
so
not going to
good.
get into it, but it's just like the psychological weirdness and wildness that comes along with this fucking story is like nothing that I've seen this year. It's
It was,
really
I think it was like the third episode of the
30.
new Black Mirror season, and we blew through the first two and really enjoyed them. They were entertaining as hell.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
honestly, I think the only one I didn't like was the last one. But that one we watched, and then we sort of paused for a little bit
Yeah.
and didn't watch the rest because I was like, that is fucked up.
Yeah.
But Aaron Paul and Josh Hartnett are just amazing in it, and oh, you start to think about like just
Yeah.
you know, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
so good. If
That's
that's
a
a show
mind
that people
fucker.
should always watch. It's incredible. It can be hit or miss, but the
Sure.
highs are some of the highest highs ever. That one sits at number two behind San Junipero for me as like
I
the
could see that.
best of the
Yeah.
series.
Yeah, it's just like I said, when you really think of something like that, and just like it's completely a mind fucker.
Mm,
And for the people that miss it, and I feel like a lot of people did miss it this year.
sure.
It's very good, and at 80 minutes, I consider it a feature. Absolutely, so I
It's
have to throw
yeah,
it in.
definitely. I mean, Biodome is I think 81 minutes.
Ah,
So
I was watching the Ginger Dead Man, and that's 70 minutes. Never
Yeah.
saw it, but like Joe Bob did it, and
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch
it's
that special yet.
so it's unwatchable.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, but it's beyond unwatch. Like it's just
Yeah.
so bad. It's worse than I thought it was going to be.
You mean that movie about Gary Busey playing a gingerbread man that kills people is not good, you're
How
saying?
would that be bad?
Yeah,
Have
but
you
Wait a
guys
minute.
watched the Pet Judge or whatever the fuck Gary Busey did with that show?
no.
It's pretty amazing.
No.
He's a lunatic.
So that was my number 4. Your number 3 is When Evil Lurks, right?
It is. Yep.
All right. So Langan, we're going to talk about your number 3.
Well, okay. I got Thanksgiving. So did you guys have
Yeah.
those that
So
earlier, right?
Yeah.
let's talk
Yep.
about it
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, this is probably the most fun I had in a movie this year. It was you talk about anticipated. I mean, Jesus Christ, I don't even remember
Right.
how long have we been talking about this movie, and it delivers. It's everything you could want in it. A great genre film. Eli Roth's best movie, I think, by far. Um, and he's given us a classic that I hope he, revisits at other Thanksgivings.
Well,
And
it's
Yeah, well, he
already
is. It's already
official that
greenlit. Yeah, it's
Thanksgiving
greenlit.
2 is
yeah,
greenlit.
I would
Yeah.
hope so. But it's fucking it's everything that a horror movie should be. It was super fun. Uh, Watched it again immediately, like the next day.
Oh, I
Yeah.
went to see it in the theater a second time. So like Karen, like when we went to Arizona for Thanksgiving, her whole family was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, let's go watch Thanksgiving," and like I would say maybe like 12 of us went to go see it, and so I got to see it for a second time just to make sure that what I saw the first time wasn't like an emotional fluke, where you're like,
Right,
okay,
right.
I loved it even more the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The little things that I missed, just it's really good. It's really fun. I
It's
mean,
so good.
is it The Godfather? No, but it's just
No.
it was such an entertaining movie. Um, just a lot of red herrings, which of course makes sense. Everything you do. Um,
Sure.
it just the gore was great. When it was supposed to be funny, it was really funny, and
Yeah, fucking Tim Dillon, man.
most
Yeah.
importantly, a really good script. Like it
Yeah.
was a
So
really good script.
I agree with Brian. This is Eli's best movie. It's his most complete movie. There's not like one thing that you would shout as being sort of stands above others. It had great gore. It was funny. It was well written. That opening sequence
Opening.
is worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is, unfortunately, I think the killer is highly telegraphed within literally the first 5 minutes. The fact that they share the look at the dinner, you kind of know that there's something between those two characters, and then when she meets her end in the riot, you're like, all right, that's probably going to be what this is. But that's fine because it's such a fun ride to get to where I knew that movie was headed anyway, and the journey to get there was surprising and funny and gory and great and entertaining. So, like, even though I kind of had that pegged from the beginning, it didn't matter because it was so much fun getting there.
And John Carver's
And
a
it-
real person too.
He is.
He
Yes.
is. And on maybe when Eli was on the Mick Garris podcast,
Yep.
he said that the girl that works at the diner was like a relative of John Carver. Like
Yes, a
like
direct descendant,
yeah.
like a
Great.
cousin's
Yeah.
great
Great.
something.
Great. Yeah.
And that scene where she has to pull her head off of the freezer door, a
Yeah.
la Christmas Story, but the skin comes off is fucking
Okay.
fantastic.
So that's another thing. The stalking is great
Yep.
because a lot of times in horror movies, especially lately, once you're got.
Hmm.
And it's like just this 2-second thing of like, oh, her face is on this and now she's dead, and they go to the next scene. They let all these characters have this like will to live, to keep fighting.
Right.
When the girl, like the stepmom, like was being chased all over the house, fucking great.
Yep.
It was
But
really
even
good.
that scene with the freezer, she pulled herself off, she slammed into the garbage, and then her body gets hanged on the front of the store. Like there's multiple times that kill is used. It was so much fun.
So much
And then a
fun.
Misfit song on the end credits.
The ending.
Was the
Also,
chef's kiss.
the Far Side with
Yes.
Oh Shit.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
shit! I was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? How they just
Awesome.
fucking throw that in there? So, okay. So we're going to my number 3, which is Sisu.
Mm,
Okay.
No one
See, this is one that
I
honestly
forgot that one.
was in my blind spot.
Okay.
I saw the trailer. I saw like all the reviews that said it was amazing, like sort of brutality and just crazy violence. I saw you post on it, and I just never fucking got to it.
It's fucking great. It's just like 80 minutes of like. So let me tell you how good it is. We rented it, and Karen, I had to convince. I was like, trust me.
You're like,
on
let's
this."
watch this movie about this guy that's just killing a bunch of Nazis.
Right? So we watch it, and within the first 10 minutes, like, it never lets up. It just keeps going. 20 minutes, she's just like, this is great. So we watch it, and then the next day, she's like, let's watch it again. That's how much she
Wow.
enjoyed it.
Whoa.
That's when you know it's good.
Yeah. And we did. We watched it all over again. And it's just this like fucking like 80-minute fucking just like whirlwind of like pure fucking violence. And it's goddamn amazing. It would have been number one if it wasn't for the other goddamn two movies. So number two for you, Chris.
My number two is actually was in your honorable mention. Leave the World Behind.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Tell me about it.
So I guess with anytime Julie, so I didn't know that Sam Esmail wrote and directed it. And the first season of Homecoming is one of the best seasons of television I've ever watched. I didn't know what was happening until the end. The acting was amazing. The camera work was like Kubrickian. It was just very much a lot of use of like odd shots from above, changing the aspect ratio. Like it was amazing, and it had great acting. And it's still to this day one of my favorite seasons of a show that I've ever seen. So I was late to the party on it. I was like, it's Julia Roberts, whatever. But then when I realized like Mahershala Ali was in it and Sam Esmail made it, I was like, all right, let me check this out. Um, it almost had a little bit of the Knock at the Cabin vibes in the sense that it is about sort of, kind of an apocalyptic event happening. But this movie, I think, is insanely well written. The acting is top notch. You get where it could have gone the way of like tradition or stereotype, it doesn't. And as like I just was on complete edge and didn't breathe for most of the movie. As I was watching things unfold.
Yeah.
And it pays off. Like I know people complain about maybe like kind of the anticlimactic ending that it has, but I happen to think that it's perfect for what it is.
Yeah.
And you do see sort of what's happening and why and everything else. So I just fucking loved it. I loved it. I couldn't believe how fucking good it was. It's one of the better sort of end of the world type movies I've ever seen. Find, but it has moments where it sort of expands out and gives you hints of what's going on globally or nationally, and then brings it back to kind of like the 4 or 5 main characters, and it just blew me away.
It's
Watching Julia Roberts dance to that next song was one of the worst moments one of the worst feelings I've ever had inside.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even
Oh
know
my
what to
God.
say about that.
It's so
That hurt.
awkward.
That hurt.
To me, that movie was pure dread, like nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
It would have cracked my top 10 and it just could have, but it was just like Saw X just took it out, Hypnotic just was, had something to say about it.
But if you think about it, like in a lesser movie, those two would have either fucked or made out, but they didn't. Right.
Yeah.
In a lesser movie, Kevin Bacon would have been a racist conspiracy theorist, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's empathetic. He still has his beliefs. Like there's subtlety to this movie that doesn't happen in a lot of movies these days. And I know people because it's executive produced by Michelle and Barack Obama. There's all this nonsense. But like
Now it makes sense.
Yeah. but if you watch it, it treats kind of the situation and the divide among different people in America in such a sort of sensitive way and an even way that it defies kind of like being pigeonholed in left or right or whatever. It's just this is probably what will happen. And I had recently watched the Civil War trailer by Alex Garland, who made Ex Machina and Annihilation, and he's got a movie coming out in 2024, War, and it's very much about how if sort of the country kind of backed into their corners and then decided that they were going to fight each other, what would that look like? And this had a lot of those vibes, but it sort of kind of got out of the gate before that. But it's just
It's one of the best Doomsday movies I've ever seen. And the ending is exactly what it should have been, because like, what do you want? Like, do you want like $100 million worth of destruction? It's just like,
Right.
okay, this is just the way it ends, because you could only imagine what's coming next. So that's
Sure. And it gives you flashes. Like it
Yeah.
pulls back. And again, his camera work is just
Camera work
so
is
beautiful.
his camera work is probably the biggest star of the movie, because other than that, it's like you have these main characters, but the star is the director. The director is just like unbelievable. The script is unbelievable. It's very good. Very, very good.
Okay. That was my number 2.
So Langan, your next one?
Now this would be my number. We discussed When Evil Lurks, so that's coming up.
Yeah,
Where
no,
did we?
that's my number
That's coming
2.
up still. Right, you're number 2.
And that
Okay,
was
my
number
number
3.
2 is the little film I didn't hear anybody talking about, but I hope it gets more attention. But it's up on Hulu now. It's called Linoleum. Um, Great little independent film, incredibly deep indie pick, uh, starring Jim Gaffigan, who's fantastic in it. Who's actually a pretty damn good actor, as far as obviously known for his comedy, but he's a good dramatic actor. And Rita Seehorn plays his wife from Better Call Saul. Who plays
Okay.
Kim Wexler, who's fantastic. Tony Shalhoub's in it. There's a couple of known faces in it, but it's a story of a guy who does like a PBS Mr. Wizard kind of TV show. He always had dreams of being an astronaut, working NASA, but he had to settle for this. Like many things in life, we have our dreams and we have our reach things, and what we settle for kind of plays on that. But then it goes into there's a lot of twists and reveals. And I want to be careful about it because as you're watching they'll become obvious to you. But like, I don't want to ruin it for anybody if they have to take a chance in this film. But like, it works on a linear level, but there's also a subtext to it that eventually becomes the whole picture by the end. And I was shocked how good it was, and really like hit me in the feels. It's fantastic.
Awesome.
Linoleum.
I wrote
Linoleum.
Flora and Son, Sisu, and Linoleum down as movies that I have to watch.
All right. So
Yeah.
next we could talk about When Evil Lurks, because that's my number 2. So
Yeah.
man, I never saw Terrified.
Oh, dude, you're missing out. That movie
I gotta
is
watch
a
it.
great fucking haunted house, just straight up sort of scary
Well,
movie. It's
I'll
very,
be watching.
very
I'll be
good.
watching it now. I didn't really know what to expect. I was like, yeah, whatever. I start watching this. I'm like reading the subtitles. I'm like, oh, whatever. And then they get to like that disgusting like fat guy, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, all right, this is interesting. And then from there, there's this like folklore that starts unraveling in this movie,
Yeah.
and these rules that everyone has to follow.
I love that like it was sort of generally just sort of known and accepted that there are people that get like possessed,
Yeah.
spiritually and physically. And like there's like, things that you have to do to deal with that. It was
To
amazing.
deal with it. That I like that. And then that's where the story unravels, like they get like one of the townspeople, and he kind of like sets it off, like they just drag this fucking fat fuck who's like,
Yeah.
like if you see him, it's just like the makeup on this is just
He's
like
got like pus
unbelievable.
coming out of him, and
Yeah,
he's
it's
just
disgusting.
disgusting and bloated.
Of course, it has
So
one of
simple too. Like that, it's not like a huge, but like, small cast of people, very simple, streamlined, but fucking effective, and very much like, like The Thing in a bit, in a way, as far as this thing that possesses and jumps from other stuff. It's got that kind of a vibe.
And what I love that they do in a movie from Argentina, most foreign movies, America just doesn't, like when I saw that dog, I was like, that dog's going to do something fucked up. And he did. I didn't know what he was going to do, but when he did what he did, I was like, they would
think about how
never
like
have done that.
Think about how well set up that scene was, because you have the parents, you have the dad on the stairs who's arguing with the wife, and the son is looking at them, hoping that they would stop arguing. You've got the new guy or the stepdad off on the side. Like the composition of that shot is just begging, like it's just begging you to be afraid of what's going to happen, and you're so dreadful, and and you kind of expect it to happen, but you're like, yeah, this movie's not going to do that. And then it fucking does in a way that is so much more sort of realistic and shows you more than I would have expected a movie to show you. And
Yeah.
you're like, holy fuck, yes.
Yeah, because it kicks into gear, and then you know, she's really giving him shit, and then you see kind of your hero of the movie and like how much he's not a hero.
Yeah.
And she
Right.
basically like just shits on him, and you're like, oh, this guy is kind of like shitty. And then to add to the stress of the movie, he goes upstairs, and you're like, oh, his other kid's autistic,
Yeah.
and like what it's like to deal with that. And another thing that really hit me was when the wife got on the phone afterwards, and she was like telling him all the shit that she did and what a loot. Like when you're possessed by this demon, it's
Mhm.
like it's almost like the angriest like partner you've ever had on the planet telling you everything. Like,
And that
Yeah,
lady with
and-
the axe, bro, in the face. I mean, that shit was
Yeah.
savage.
yeah,
that
it's
Smacking their
actually I think
face
set
with
it
an
off
axe.
more even before that. Even that was even
Yeah.
before the dog.
yeah, no, absolutely. And just, you know, what I saw it twice just recently, and man, by the time it wrapped up, I was just like, that was a wild ride. And what I gathered from that movie was anytime that main character was given an option to do something right, he always picked the wrong thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what
It's
he was, whatever choice you gave him, he always made the wrong choice, and you see
Yeah.
it. You know, that
It's
was a movie.
it's so nihilistic. Like the ending of that movie, you're just like, oof.
Yeah.
And I realized that like a lot of the movies that, leave the world behind when evil works, like a lot of those at the top of my list are ones that are just fucking, brutal when it comes to outcome.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to mention, and I won't spoil it for anybody, but the scene where the brother is in the car and pulls up and sees kind of what's happening and the scooping,
Yeah. So
that
good.
was nuts. I was like,
That
oh my
was
God, that is so fucked up.
I'm like, wait, she's eating his brains like
Yeah, it
popcorn.
was so
Yeah.
fucked up.
Yeah, I'm like,
like,
I didn't see that
Yeah.
happen. But
it's so good.
it's one of those movies this year that deserves all the praise that it got. Absolutely. When people like, oh my God, what about Winnie? I'm like, just watch it. It's fucking great.
Yeah.
So
I've recommended this to anyone who's said, hey, is there anything like kind of decent horror wise? I'm like, that's the movie that you should watch.
well, I got my number one, which I think beats it. So what do we like? What do you have left, Chris? You have number one, right? That's it.
I have number one left. Yeah.
All right. And Langan, you have number one, right? So what's your number one, Chris?
My number one is Oppenheimer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. Ever since I saw Memento back in 2000 at like a screening for press because I happen to write stupid movie reviews for my college newspaper.
Remember
So I got to see
Sammy
some of those
Jenkins.
movies. And ever since then, his style, he shoots his movies, his stories have always been incredibly intricate. And the knock on him throughout his career has been like, do you really connect emotionally with the characters? I have, quite frankly, in a lot of the movies, but this one to me is his most well-rounded, best made, incredible film. Because it's sort of it's a biopic, obviously. It sort of takes a look at Oppenheimer and throughout his life and kind of the development of the atomic bomb. But it also then explores kind of afterwards, and which may actually be the most compelling part of the movie is kind of that final hour when they're trying to figure out kind of whether or not he's a traitor and who sold him out. There's so much going on sort of thematic movie, but the acting is phenomenal. The spectacle is humongous. Like this is a drama and a biopic that was shot in IMAX and feels like it. I just think for my, Spielberg all time is my favorite director. In modern day, Nolan is my favorite. And this is to me Nolan's most accomplished movie. I just didn't have a better experience watching a movie this year, particularly in the movie theater.
Okay. Before I comment to that, what's your number one, Langan?
Sick of myself.
Oh wow, interesting. We have three different number ones. Um, that's interesting. Okay. I saw Oppenheimer in the theaters and I probably shouldn't have seen it. But I mean, the movie connected with you the way, yeah, 100%. To me, I felt like I was watching a book report. And the last hour, I felt like Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School, like falling asleep, getting yelled at because they were.
Dude, that's like the most exciting part of the movie too. I don't know.
I like the middle part.
Okay.
Like the
When
explosion
they make the
part.
bomb and blow
Yeah.
stuff up.
When the
Yeah.
bomb goes boom.
Yeah. But hey, listen, that's why we're here, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Langan, before we make this too long and Nick's waiting, give me your number one.
Yes. This is a Norwegian film called Sick of Myself. It's up now on Paramount. I know a lot of people didn't see it. I hope they do. It's a Cronenberg-esque body horror. It's got a lot of reflections on ego, narcissism, the main character syndrome that invades our society right now, all the BS that goes on. Totally unique about this girl. She's a coffee shop worker. A lady gets attacked by a dog and gets tore up, and she's helping her. And she sees all the attention given to this person. So she reads online about this drug in Russia. You know how these fucked up Russian drugs or whatever, and it rots the skin, and you've seen all
Yeah,
the
like
fucking
that.
fucked
Oh,
up shit.
the ricin that the fucking Putin gave to that guy, and like
All that
ruined his
horrible
life.
shit. And so
Crocodile.
yeah. So she
Yeah.
purposely orders a bunch of this to fuck herself up.
For
And
attention.
basically,
Yeah.
and it just goes into incredibly dark and sometimes still funny places. But there's been so much good Norwegian cinema the last few years. That's a hotbed of shit coming out. But it's called Sick of Myself. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Sing it from the rooftops.
I gotta watch it because I saw like
I just wrote that down.
the poster for her. She's like covered up in bandages, right?
Smoking a cigarette, yeah, through her
Yeah.
fucked
Yeah.
up face. Yeah, it's
I
great.
I guess I mean I would have just put the bandages on and not done the other stuff, but that's just me.
Yeah, you'll see. It's fucked up and it's pretty disgusting too.
All right, so whatever. My number one movie of 2023. Talk to Me. Like that fucking movie ruled. That movie was so good. Fucking best horror movie, best movie I saw all year. Saw it twice. I can't believe you didn't have it on the list, Chris.
It was in my honorable mentions. I forgot to mention it. I
Yeah.
really did enjoy it a lot. I thought it faltered a little bit in the end. Ultimately, for me, I'm actually somebody that loves subtlety and like more. But if I saw more than just flashes of some of the horror that was going on, I feel like it would have been a more effective movie. But I still absolutely enjoyed it. It just was not in the
Yeah. Yeah, that was my number one. I mean, once I saw A24 was doing it. So all right, so the whole reason we went to go see it was Barbie and Oppenheimer was out, and we were like, oh, let's go see one of these two. Both of them were sold out because it was in the very beginning. And then my girlfriend was like, oh, let's see Talk to Me. And I was like, well, the apprehension just came from A24. I was like, oh, it's an A24 horror movie.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It had
oh.
so much buzz though that I was like, this might be the one A24 that I act like, and I don't hate everything A24. I want to put that out there.
Me too. Yeah.
But when they do horror, it's almost like us that are horror nerds look at it and go, hey, that's cute. Because it tends to be like either really boring and sort of like elevated horror or something that like in the end they don't even show anything and you're like, fuck this movie.
Yeah.
This happened to be one that actually like showed you stuff and was a genuine horror movie.
Genuine horror movie. So what I found out was that they didn't make it. They just bought it.
Yeah, they're distributing it.
Yeah,
It was
so
a New Zealand
like yeah,
production.
like a duo, like these two.
Yep.
So much so, like even Rogan talked about it on his podcast, and then them two guys ended up on the show. I'm thinking like this guy never mentions movies, and he loved it that
Did
much.
you guys see Talk to Me? That was
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Whoa.
Jamie, pull that trailer up.
They actually they're making a sequel. Talk
Yeah,
to Me.
yeah. Oh wow.
Yes.
All right, what are they going to do with part 3 now? Talk 3 me.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Chris, thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I
you
got like 4 or 5 movies that I gotta make sure I watch.
you give us legitimacy. You have a strong command of the English language, unlike us.
Listen, Brian brings an element of that that I think he definitely brings that there's some culture and subtext there that
Yeah.
maybe your reviews don't necessarily have.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. 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 I'm
We like to keep one foot in culture, one foot completely Neanderthal.
Yes.
Me and Sam.
yeah.
You know, you got to walk that line, right? That's the
got-
only way
yeah.
to see all the good shit.
I've got the
right?
super orbital ridge. I'm a little bit Neanderthal.
I got one Neanderthal foot at all times for sure. Definitely. So all right, we got to go do a rock countdown
Yeah.
now. So
Oh, have fun, guys. That's gonna be a good one.
yo, peace, God.